Detroit's suburbs have a complicated, often painful history when it comes to race. For much of the 20th century, many of these areas were effectively sundown towns, places where Black people were not welcome. Suburbs like Grosse Pointe, East Point, Livonia, Allen Park, and Dearborn, as well as others like Royal Oak and Ferndale, maintained predominantly white populations through restrictive practices and local policies. And while it might seem hard to believe for some, many of these areas worked hard to stay all white for decades. The relationship between Detroit and its suburbs is something unique. In cities like Atlanta or Los Angeles, it's not a big deal if someone from Bankhead or College Park identifies with the larger city. But in Detroit, claiming to be from the city when you live in suburbs like Bloomfield or Southfield can raise some eyebrows. Why? Because many of these suburbs have built their identity on being not Detroit, distancing themselves from the city's struggles, both economically and socially. One of the biggest factors contributing to this divide was the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, in the post-World War II era. Through racist lending practices and redlining, the FHA made it easy for white families to buy homes in the suburbs while systematically denying Black families the same opportunities. Even when Black families could afford homes, they were excluded from these loans, ensuring that many neighborhoods remained segregated. Meanwhile, white residents fled Detroit during a period known as white flight. They moved to the suburbs, seeking better housing and job opportunities, but many left behind a city struggling with poverty and racial tension. The suburban boom was fueled by the desire to escape those issues, and for Black people, it meant being excluded from the opportunities the suburbs offered. Fast forward to today, and while some suburbs like Dearborn have changed, others, like Grosse Pointe, still struggle with their racial past. Dearborn, once known for its segregationist policies under Mayor Orville Hubbard, now has one of the largest Arab American populations in the U.S. But places like Grosse Pointe remain overwhelmingly white, with some neighborhoods still upwards of 90% white. And even now, racial issues continue to surface, like when a noose was found at Grosse Pointe South High School just a few years ago. As of 2022, Detroit's suburbs remain largely segregated. Only 7 of the nearly 80 surrounding municipalities have a Black majority, and just 14 have a Black population over 20%. To compare, Detroit itself is nearly 80% Black. Despite efforts to integrate, the suburbs continue to reflect the deep racial divide that shaped their growth. So, where do we go from here? Are Detroit and its suburbs moving closer together? Or are these racial divides too entrenched to overcome? I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about the history and current state of segregation in the Detroit metro area? Drop your comments below and let's talk about it.